Good afternoon, fifth graders. We are going to be creating a piece of artwork called printmaking. And if you had me in third grade, you probably remember when we carved the Tree of Life into a piece of styrofoam plate and printed it on another piece of paper. So printmaking is it's different ways of printmaking, but printmaking is always when you're transferring an image from one place to the other, onto another piece of paper or onto a canvas, wherever you want to print something. It's kind of like when they print newspapers. So they have got a way to print something over and over, kind of like a stamp too. Whenever you have a stamp, when you have something stamped on your hand, that's what I'm talking about with printmaking. So the artist's name is Andy Warhol, and he was a modern artist. He was an American artist, and he did a lot of, like I said, printmaking. And since it's printmaking, you're going to have a lot of repetition. But he also added some variety in his color. Even though it was the same image, he added variety in his color. So one way that we can do that without using ink, most of the time printmaking uses ink. We're just going to use crayons to do that. So what you will do, grab a piece of paper, fold it twice, so you'll have 4 sections, and then I want you to cut out one part of it. So I've got to grab a pair of scissors. I forgot to bring them over here with me, so hang on just a sec. So cut out one section, save the other 3 sections in case you feel like you have messed up terribly bad. You can use the other parts too. So this small piece of paper is going to be called your printer. That's what you're going to print with. Then you're going to have another big piece of paper. Well, not a big piece of paper, but the same size. You're going to fold it twice too, because we're going to have 4 of the exact same images on your artwork, similar to what Andy Warhol would do. So there's my 4 sections. On the back, you know that you write a 5 and your grade level, or your grade level teacher. So if you're in Dancy's class, it'll be 5D, and then your name. That way, if you bring me your art or you lose your art somewhere on campus, if someone finds it, they'll know who to bring it to. Either Miss Dancy's class or to me, obviously, because it's art, and then I can find your teacher. That's why I always do that. You guys know that ever since I've been teaching you. And if I've not taught you over the years, it's not really that hard. So we've got 4 sections, our names on the back, then we got our printer. So what you will do on this paper is draw the image that you want to transfer. You want to keep it really simple, and it can be a common everyday object that you might find somewhere, like Andy Warhol. He did Campbell soup cans, and that's just a common everyday object that you might find just about anywhere, in anybody's cabinet. So think about something in your life that you would see a lot of. I've had students just do smiley faces. I've had kids do the Nike check. I've had people do the Under Armour logo. You might make up your own logo. One item that I will not let you use on this assignment is the YouTube triangle, and I know you know what I'm talking about. That's just challenge yourself. I mean, I know you probably love YouTube, and that's great. I use YouTube as well, but let's try to challenge yourself. So I'm going to do a face that is associated with a popular singer from years ago. His name was John Lennon, and I'm going to kind of do a little portrait of him that I've seen. He actually drew it of himself, but it's just some simple lines. He had little Harry Potter glasses, by the way, so that's how you'll know him if you ever look up John Lennon. And he had long hair, but again, he had short hair too. But in this one his hair's kind of long. So I'm going to think about the little round glasses that he wore, like Harry Potter. And then he had a little big nose, but not too bad. It's kind of an oxymoron, a little big nose. But he had a big nose. And then his hair, he had kind of long hair. And this is kind of his own kind of self-portrait. It's similar to it. But like I said, you pick whatever image you want to draw for your printmaking. Keep it really simple. Don't go overboard and get a lot of detail, unless you just want to challenge yourself and do a whole lot of detail. So on the back of your printer, you want to find a black crayon, and on the back of it, I want you to color really, really, really heavy and dark, with getting a lot of that wax crayon on there. And you can kind of see his image on this too. So this is fun to do with different colors on your own and come up with some cool stuff. But I'm just going to use black to keep it simple. But you got to have a dark color for sure. But later on, if you wanted to do it with multicolor, bright colors, that's fine. You could do that. So what I'm going to do, this piece of paper sits right inside there. You can see on the back of that, you can already see the image. So I'm going to lay it in this rectangular section that we had folded out. Take your pencil and trace over it. And what it's going to do, the wax is going to transfer, which is like printmaking, onto the other paper. Then that way I have my image, and it will be the exact same image on the other 3 sections too. But you can change it up and maybe even like turn it upside down in the other 2 parts, just for fun. Don't peel it all the way off yet. Peel it, hold it down with one hand and peel it back this hand. See if your image got all drawn on there, and it did. So I'm going to do that on the other 3 sections. So 1, 2, 3, you'll have 4 all together. So I'm going to do this one more time. All right, guys. What I've decided to do while I'm working on this is kind of fix it where you don't have to watch me do the whole thing, because I'm sure you don't want me to watch me do the other 2. So what I'm going to do, yep, it transferred. Sometimes you do have to put a little bit more black crayon on the back, because obviously it transferred onto here, and you would need some more for your second one. See where the second one wasn't quite as dark? You can always put more on the back. So what I'm going to do, instead of me doing the other 2, I'm going to stop on 2. That way you don't have to watch me do all 4 of them. So, but you would have an image in all 4. But like I said, if you wanted to put them upside down, or you could put them sideways, that's fine. That gives you a little bit more variety, where it's not quite as boring. So after you get your images on your 4 sections on your big paper, come in heavy and dark with some crayons. Now this assignment requires watercolor, but I know you people at home might not have watercolor, and that's okay. You can just do color. And I will say the Dollar Tree has some acrylic paint, and you could water down, get your little jar and water down your acrylic and almost turn it into watercolor, because the watercolor is supposed to be light. So I decided to do some crazy colors there. So you would color all 4 of your images here, then you're ready for watercolor. I prefer to have each section a different color on the watercolor. I'm only going to do 1. So and I know you guys understand why I'm not going to do all 4 of them, because I have the same result. So I'm going to fold this down so you'll just see that I've painted this section. But I would do all 4 sections a different color. If you don't want to do different colors in all 4 sections, that's fine. You could just do one color, and you can paint it however you wish if you have watercolor. If you don't have watercolor, you could just come in with some color pencils and maybe add some light color around the sections or some lines or something a little different inside each one of them, because I know not everybody has watercolor. And you know, when you have watercolor, you need lots of water in those trays, those ovals of watercolor. I've used some dark colors here, so I think I'm going to use yellow to paint right on top of it. And if you've had me all the way since kindergarten, you know what happens when you put watercolor on top of crayons. So you'd be real easy. Add some water. I've used this watercolor all morning, so it's real gooey. I just want to use the tip of my brush and lots of water to get it liquidy. You got to turn it into paint. You can paint right on top of the crayons if you got it on there heavy and dark, and it won't even really affect the crayons at all. If it's really, really dark when you put it on there, which yellow is not a good example for that, don't dip back into the paint, just dip back into the water, and while it's wet, or it could be dry, I didn't even think I'd say that again, you can spread out that paint, add water to it, and spread it out. You know, we don't like puddles. So, you would really notice this, obviously, with the cool colors, because they are so dark anyway. But if they're too dark, just put water straight on the paper, and that paint's already on the paper, and you can spread it out. Yellow, not so much. So there's one section. You can paint all the way to the edge if you want to. I'm going to unfold it, and I am going to do one more to give you a better example about watercolor and it being too dark. I'm just going to do straight white inside my image that I drew, my John Lennon image. If anyone knows who the Beatles are as a rock group, like one of the first rock groups ever to make it big, you know who John Lennon is. But if you don't, maybe Miss Huffman, your music teacher, will let you in on a little bit of Beatles music. Oops. So I'm going to drip some water into my watercolor tray. Be real easy with my brush. Make sure it's liquidy. And I can paint right on top of the white, and see, it creates the coolest texture. I think this is really cool. I know you've seen me do this before, but I think it's so cool. I hope you do too. I'll try to give you an example of it being too dark, but it's not looking like I'm going to. I might come down below it and show you what happens if it's too dark. All right, I'm just going to use this as an example down here. Let's say your liquid is, you know, it's going to go away because you're painting it on your paper. Let's say you get down there, and I'm going to do this on purpose, and it's real gooey and you didn't add any more water to it to make it more liquid, and you paint it on your paper. Oh my gosh, it's so dark. You're like, oh my gosh, it's not supposed to be that dark. All you got to do, don't dip back in the paint, just dip in the water and put it right on top of the paint that you put down that was too dark, and push it to a new area, and it lightens up automatically. And you guys, you know, if you paint the same section over and over again, this is paper, and if your paper's not thick, it will make a hole in it. So we like to push away the puddles, but don't get too crazy with putting too much paint on it. So that's how you lighten up an accident of too dark of watercolor on your paper. So that's how you do that. But I just want to show you that little example on the right way to paint. And I know you've heard it from me before, but it's been a while, so I'm hoping you remember. So this is your printer. This is your Andy Warhol style artwork. If you look him up on Google, he's got some very interesting pieces of artwork, especially with the Campbell soup can. And he was very popular, made lots and lots of money back in the 70s. But I always liked the Campbell soup cans. I thought that was a neat idea. So there is your lesson for this week on printmaking and the artist Andy Warhol. I hope you enjoy it. Y'all have a good day.